Okay, so I am a principled intellectual property abolitionist. This was probably one of my earliest political opinions because I developed it in high school as a result of an English teacher. This English teacher showed me sort of a debate or a conversation about the use of sampling in hip hop. And the question was, is sampling another song stealing? And the whole conversation made no sense to me, and it annoyed me so much because people were trying to figure out like how to make it be stealing and be okay. Like they were treating it as like a way. How do we get both at once? They were trying to get their cake and eat it too. And I could just tell from the beginning that this was a pointless endeavor. You were not going to do that. They were trying to simultaneously be of the opinion that you can borrow from other music as long as you, quote unquote, make it your own. But the problem with that, obviously, was that they played us different songs. And they asked us, which of these songs do you think is stealing? And which of these songs do you think is not stealing? And no one could agree on which songs made it their own and which songs were stealing. So the whole made it your own thing is really more of a gray. It's more of a gray blur than a thick black line. So maybe using that as your vector, using vibes as your ethical basis, as your ethical foundation, isn't smart because it's just going to be constantly shifting under your feet. Uh, so that was my position for the longest while. Was you got to pick one. You got to decide whether it's stealing or not. And if it is stealing, is that okay? And I decided it is stealing and it's fine. It's fine. It's steal away. Steal anything and everything. And my argument was just that it makes the world a better place when one person who came up with an idea originally doesn't now get to sit on that idea and keep it all to themselves when the second other people hear the idea, they also have that idea. If you write a song and then you release it on the radio and everybody hears it, it's now in everyone's heads. We all kind of own it a little bit. We all have it a little bit. So it's wrong to deprive the hundreds of millions of people who have heard a pop song on the radio from the creative freedom to take something from that pop song and stick it in their own music. So it's basically a utilitarian argument, right? I'm basically arguing that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, which is probably why it's so controversial because most people are Kantians for some reason. That's probably a whole other video. But that's been my principled position for a long time now. Even before I was at all political, I believed that intellectual property was dumb bullshit. When I first started to get into politics, one of the things I watched that I didn't think of as political, but which was Adam Ruins Everything. I just thought of that show as a facts show, a show full of cool, good facts to share. Um, Very clearly now, I could see it was a progressive show with facts designed to educate people that progressives are actually right. Um, but still, lots of factual information. Good show. Loved the show. And they handled this issue of Mickey Mouse and the copyright of Mickey Mouse, which came up again fairly recently because Steamboat Willie finally entered the public domain after decades of Disney pushing it and extending copyright law for its own selfish purposes so that they could hold on to Mickey Mouse. And it is a little bit infuriating to me that they didn't push it, and yet we still don't have Mickey Mouse. We just have Steamboat Willie because apparently that's how it works, is it's divided up into chunks, which also makes no sense. He's fucking Mickey Mouse. You can't distinguish between Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie. We all know it's Mickey Mouse. Why are we playing these games, copyright? Why are you making me play these law games with you? Um, So that became a public conversation again, and ironically, it it was weird conversation on the left. It was weird timing. Let me continue my how I got into intellectual property abolitionism, because when I first started being on the left, one of the things that attracted me to anarchist and libertarian socialist ideas, which I've learned a lot about, and I'm pretty kind of mostly in that area politically, was this video by this guy Non-Compete. I'll put the link in the description. Who did a video about intellectual property, and it was 100%. It was called something along the lines of like, "You can't own an idea," which I agree. You can't own an idea. That's a perfect way to put it. You cannot own an idea. It should be free to the world. And then for the longest while, I thought I was with the right people. I thought I was with the right people because I was with the people who were intellectual property abolitionists, and that gave me a lot of faith that I was in the right crowd. I was like, okay, I found my people, because these people are thinking the same way as me about this issue that I've thought about this way since before I was even political. And then AI comes out. AI art, right? Where you can generate art images. And it comes out that the way the AI does this is it looks at like a bunch of different images in its image database, which is accessible to like Google. So it's finding random images, and some of those images are by various small artists or large artists like Salvador Dali or what have you, famous artists and small artists alike, just sort of smushed together algorithmically. And the left decided that this was, property theft, and that this was sort of a cruel capitalist tech bro, big tech corporation thing where the big tech capitalists are stealing from the little guy, the small artists, and they're using it to churn out all this poorly made, terrible looking slop art, and it's all garbage and it's trash, and everybody hates it and nobody likes how it looks. Which was surprising to me, because it completely contradicts everything we've been saying we believe for years. So that was a little bit frustrating, right? Because you can't own an idea. What happened to that? What happened to you can't own an idea, right? You're supposed to be able to steal from small artists. You're supposed to be able to steal from big artists too. You're supposed to be able to steal from anybody to make new art. And the utilitarian argument, right? It's beneficial to more people. In this case, the doing away with the property rights for the needs of the many is the ease with which you can now create an image by just having the AI generate it for you. And that's the exact argument that proponents of AI have been making. They've been making that argument. They've been making the argument that the ease with which it helps people who are not very capable artists themselves to make art if they want to through these AI algorithms outweighs the costs of the property theft through the algorithm, through the internet. So this has been weird. This has been weird to watch develop, because the AI thing and the Mickey Mouse entering public domain happened at like the exact same time, and I had to watch the entire left wing give itself whiplash, contradicting itself by celebrating this thing we've been waiting to happen for decades as a huge win for intellectual property abolition. Yay, Steamboat Willie is finally in the public domain, but also property rights are deadly important, and if you plagiarize, we'll fucking kill you. We'll fuck you up. And I kind of thought, maybe there would be some people pushing back on this. Maybe there would be debate. Maybe this would be like a liberal leftist divide. And then one of my favorite leftist, H Bomber guy, made a 3.5 fucking hour long video just listing people who've plagiarized things. Just calling out individual people who have done this thing that I think is fine to do for hours. And then all of those people got canceled on the internet, which I think is wrong. I think that was bad. I also can't really blame him because clearly he, on principle, believes that this is theft and a bad thing to do. So he thinks he's calling out bad things to do, which is fine, I guess. So then I go to my contrarians. I go to this other YouTuber, Peter Coffin. Give me a contrarian take. Peter Coffin is trying their best to be not with the left on this, but they don't seem to know how to stick the landing, right? So their take was like, AI is good because of all the stuff that it does other than the art theft, which is like, yeah, I don't think anybody disagreed that like it's good for technology to progress. That's like a made up version of the liberal stance that you've created in your head to argue against. Like what's your problem? Just the tone? Just the tone of the conversation? You want the tone to change to technology and progress good while retaining the same exact criticisms? They also seemed to think that H-Bomber Guy's big video about plagiarism was bad. They seemed to think that it was bad. But in their video about it, they made some kind of a weird, confusing point about like calling out individuals versus like changing society at large, which I'm all for the changing society at large instead of calling out individuals. But there's actually a much simpler critique here, which is that they didn't do anything wrong because we're intellectual property abolitionists and you're supposed to be allowed to steal other people's shit. That if it is a digital, easily transmissible idea that cannot be owned because you can have as many copies of it as you want, then you are supposed to be able to copy. That is our position. That has been our position right the fuck along. So that's a much easier argument to make. And you don't have to make this weird, confusing, middling take where you're like, actually plagiarizing is bad, but even though it's bad, I'm not going to get mad at the people who are doing it. It was exhausting. So let's talk about some of the implications here. Intellectual property abolitionism. I 100% think you should be able to use those AI art generators. I 100% think that you should be able to steal art from other people. I definitely think that it's really dumb to empower people who whine about their OC being stolen on Tumblr with the full force of the law and the full force of a liberal social justice movement. I think that's probably a bad idea, actually. Because there are people out there who will literally be like, you stole my original character. And it's on DeviantArt or something. They've come up with an OC on DeviantArt. They're like, you stole my original character, and their character is just Sonic but purple. Like they own the concept of Sonic but purple. And they're really, really confident that Sonic but purple, you got that idea from them because nobody else could have possibly been original enough or creative enough to have ever dreamed up Sonic but purple. It's ego, it fuels dumb arguments and dumb fights, and all it leads to is a bunch of conflict between people calling each other out, thinking they've stolen their shit from each other, and then just creating confusing, angry, online hate messes. And we could do away with all of that if we just didn't empower that with the full grunt of liberal social justice and the full grunt of the law, and allowed those people to quietly complain about their art being stolen while the world ignores them. That would be the ideal way for it to go, I think. Now, I do think AI has some potential negative implications. It is less than perfect at the moment. It don't do the fingers right. Gives you weird eyes and shit. Gives you weird hollowed out eyes with eyes inside of your eyes. That's not good. I feel like making those arguments, though, like making the argument look at how bad it looks, is really dumb, because at any moment, and we don't know if it's going to be in 6 months or in 10 years, at some point there's going to be an update. Some point there's going to be an update that drops, and then the fingers are going to be right, and the eyes are going to be right, and that argument's not going to be on the table anymore. So I think it's really short-sighted to just say that they think the art looks bad, which seems to be what a lot of liberals are doing, is just sharing memes of AI art and being like, look how dumb this looks. But also, it's not that dumb. People are making it. The people that we're getting mad at on the internet for using AI art, all of those people, before a bunch of liberals got mad at them, found out about AI art and thought it was cool and wanted to do something cool with it, or creative even. And that's why they used it. Or at least they thought it was kind of funny and neat, which is a form of value. There's plenty of art whose only purpose is to be kind of funny and neat. If that is all that this does, it is still in the category of art. It is still in the category of useful and providing value. And I don't believe in any of this humanist nonsense that somehow what a human being does is fundamentally different from what an AI does. This is another place where I disagree with Peter Coffin. Peter Coffin made this whole section in their video about how AIs do the same thing humans do. That they take in information and they output information. That's really all it is. It's an input-output processing machine. It steals from various different sources and it fuses it all together and it makes something new, which is the exact same thing that human beings do. And for a second there, I was like, yes, that's exactly correct. And then they did a hard left turn, a hard reversal into, but the thing that makes human beings different is that we're conscious and we're aware. And when we consume a piece of art, we don't just consume it as information, we feel. We feel the impact of the art. Who said that that makes a difference? Who said that that's necessary? You did. You chose to, so that you could solidify the line between an AI and a human. It's exhausting. Why does feeling a work of art make you better at making art in the future? If you can't distinguish between a song written by another human being and a song written by an artificial intelligence, then that artificial intelligence is fucking human enough. Even if you try to come up with some weird thing about how we're different, we have souls. We're not, and we don't. So yeah, I think there is a concern to be had with AI that it's just sort of cheaply produced and churned out, and that allows people to make cheap, thoughtless content that gets clicks, that is algorithmically enticing. I think that's a potential downside. I also think there's a misinformation risk of being able to pretend that you're like the president and then share misinformation. I think that's a definite risk to this technology. I don't think stealing art is a risk because on principle, as an intellectual property abolitionist, I don't believe I can abide by saying that that's a risk. Some of the other arguments that have been being made too, one of the big ones is like, well, but what about porn, right? What about celebrities being now drawn or animated by AI? People creating AI porn with celebrities' faces fused onto the porn star's body. I admit that is definitely a bit more uncomfortable than just having your Sonic OC stolen. I can give you that. Definitely can see why it might make somebody uncomfortable. But here's the thing. When you exist in public, the second you exist as a celebrity, there are people jerking off to you. I'm sorry to admit that to you. I'm sorry if nobody's told you that out loud. It's happening. The second you exist as a celebrity, Steve Buscemi has people jerking off to him somewhere. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're famous, someone's doing it. So it's just a matter of how high resolution of an image they're doing it with. Um, Even then, right, even if you just take a step back, before AI was invented, there were sites where people drew celebrities. You think there wasn't porn sites where people drew animated boobies on Angelina Jolie? Of course there fucking was. It's just that it takes less time to draw them because you don't need to hand animate it now, and it can be photorealistic human body. It's still the same thing though. It's taking a public face that we all know what the face looks like and using it to make uncomfortable pornographic imagery. And you can't own your face. You can't. That's the problem. You literally cannot own an idea. It's not a matter of should you be able to. You don't. It spreads, and then all you can do is punish all of the people who predictably use the idea of you outside of yourself. That's the best you can do. If you are a celebrity, other people know what you look like. They can draw a character that looks like you, but technically isn't. They can do things with your image, and they have been. This does not change that. It just makes it easier and thus more prevalent. So, as far as I'm concerned, no, I don't even think you should be able to intellectual property own an image of yourself. I also don't fully understand this insistence upon pretending that having a stranger jerk off to you is a psychological assault on you in the same way that maybe being like physically assaulted is. I'll say it right now into YouTube. Jerk off to me all you want. Go ahead. Cover this face. Give me that cum tribute. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Fuck you all.